Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week. While some homes provide us the luxuries a five-star hotel would provide, other houses are just simple living places. However, the main thing is that houses are built for people to live in, not for decoration. Yet, how many houses do you know which are very luxurious and huge but are still abandoned as no one lives in them? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Number 10. Nazi Castle. All around us are incredible abandoned homes, but not all of them have pleasant histories. One of the more vile abandoned homes is on the Bahamas, on the very abandoned Derby Island. The home is a 743 square meters or 8,000 square foot castle built by a Nazi sympathizer in 1938. He used to assist German submarines by flashing lights from his rooftop during World War II, so they could navigate the waters more safely. He even sheltered them within the cave networks underneath the island. The owner was British and owned a plantation within the island, but later on, no one could confirm what happened to the owner. The castle went abandoned after World War II and to this date remains so, covered by trees. Even though the house has the original mahogany floors and furniture, no one seems interested to purchase it. Many say that the ghost of the British owner can still be found around the castle. Number 9. The house on Holland Island. The last house on Holland Island was built in 1888. It stood on the island for over a century, and then was eventually abandoned and later destroyed by the ocean. The story behind this house is a bit fascinating. What was for almost 200 years a small and thriving colony settlement, Holland Island, previously located in the Chesapeake Bay, was settled in the 1600s. It had 360 residents and was a very bustling place by 1910. The island had a church, post office, and 70 structures. It also had its own baseball team and doctors. But the bitter part was that the island was mostly composed of mud instead of rocks. As a result, Holland Island began vanishing in 1914. Not long after, all but a few residents moved to the mainland. The last house soon became abandoned and was the only structure left on the island, which contracted to such a small size that it could barely hold the house's foundation. Someone bought this abandoned house in 1995 and tried for 15 years to stop the water from consuming the house. However, the effort was unsuccessful, and the house collapsed in 2010. Number 8. Cape Romano Dome Houses. The Cape Romano Dome Houses were built in Florida in 1981. These houses were built on a small island group south of Marco Island and could only be reached by water. The homes were built with the purposes of being ultra-modern vacation properties. However, they ended up being nothing but disaster and the origin of many plot theories. The belief that some alien cults lived in these homes is wrong, as an oil producer built these houses for self-sufficient properties. There was no sight of people living in those domes at all. Not that it mattered, for soon after, they soon became unfit for living because of the uncertain Florida weather and seawater levels. Because of their rigid concrete pillars, the domes still withstand the elements and the water to this date. There is no possible way to save the buildings now, and for the time being, they are home to no one except crazy theories and wildlife. Number 7. Tom Kelly's Bottle House. Tom Kelly's Bottle House is one hell of a strange place and is located in one of the mysterious ghost towns of the United States. The homes are established in Rhyolite, Nevada, and they seem to be filled with bottles. 3 such constructions were made by setting glass bottles into the mortar to create weird and yet creative homes. They have been left abandoned for a long time, but these structures are still there in that ghost town. Tom Kelly built the most famous bottle house. In 1905, Tom Kelly was out in the West looking for gold. As he decided to set up a home at Rhyolite, he thought of building the home with beer bottles instead of lumber. Kelly managed to collect 50,000 beer bottles within 6 months and created a 3-room house using them. However, Kelly never lived in the masterpiece and he died after selling the house. The new owner abandoned it in the 1920s when the gold boom was gone. After that, Rhyolite became deserted. Number 6. The Dr. Seuss House. Have you ever thought that one of the most peculiar left-out homes in the world is located in Alaska? The locals call it the Dr. Seuss House. It certainly is one of the most unique architectural structures in the US. It is said that the owner spent 10 years working on this house before dying suddenly. After that, the house remained abandoned for 10 years, until someone else bought it and made renovation plans. However, as seen from different photos, the renovation work was never finished. There are no windows, and the house is covered by a thin paper over the wood-made structure. There is still no answer as to why the house has never been finished. Since the house is on private property though, flying with an airplane over its head or driving past it are the only methods to take photos legally. Number 5. Redmond Treehouse. It seems like the Redmond Treehouse is another crazy house that no one seems to want. It appears to look like the mansion of a renowned pirate king who made the most use out of his money for the house. The house is in Washington State and was made by a father for his kids. However, the construction took a long time, and within that period his kids grew up and had no reason to play in it. Mostly built of plywood, the treehouse looks fantastic. It's a 3-story building on the edge of the lake, but from a closer look, it is easy to say that the house is not at all in good shape. A person really has to have great construction skills to build this masterpiece from old scraps of fencing and wood, but despite the structure's poor condition, this is a treehouse we would still treasure from our father. Number 4. Villa in rural Japan. You would be surprised to see this amazing villa that is neglected and left abandoned in the center of rural Japan. Even in Japan, abandoned homes aren't that rare, but a Western villa surely is. The house was owned by a very rich politician at one time, but was left behind for untold reasons, and thus the house decayed. As per records from the Tokyo Times, this villa was created in 1922 and is one of the only bits of Europe that can be found in the rice fields and minimalist wooden structures of the Japanese countryside. It is sad to say that the villa is badly decayed. The ground portion of the villa is coming apart and an unknown beast is rotting at the front entrance. Inside the house, there are dolls and artifacts of people who lived almost 100 years ago. Must be a spooky sight, right? In addition, there are loads of personal items as well as a TV and radio which are regarded to be the first models ever released. Still, this villa is one of the coolest abandoned houses, at least in Asia. Number 3. Bannerman's Castle. Bannerman's Castle is on an island in New York's Hudson River. Francis Bannerman VI, whose family started a military surplus business after the Civil War, bought this island during the 1900s for warehousing usage. He also built a smaller residential foundation closer by. However, with his death in 1918, the construction ended, and within a few years, the business suffered due to explosions. When laws were replaced in the 20th century, sales drastically decreased, and then a horrific storm brought great devastation to the island, damaging the ferry people used to access it. It was very much empty up until the late 1960s, when the state purchased it. Then it was open to the public for tours for around a year until another fire wrecked it. However, for the time being, the Bannerman Castle Trust has opened up tours once again. Number 2. Linwood Hall. The Linwood Hall is the 12th largest historic house in the United States. It has a mind-blowing 110 rooms, like a ballroom that can fit 1,000 guests equipped with modernist architecture. The hall was once used to hold the most crucial private art collection of European showpieces in the country. A businessman named Peter Arwell Brown Widener built it in 1900. He had 3 sons. Among them, one died in the Titanic, while one lived in the house until his death in 1915. Then the last son, Joseph, inherited the mansion and lived there until he died in 1943. From then on, no member of the family wanted to inherit the place and live in it. Widener's estate was valued at a crazy $98,368,058 in 1945. It was bought by Carl McIntyre after 7 years for $192,000. However, it closed in 2006 because of the McIntyre organization not being able to cover the mortgage. Number 1. Lennox Castle. And here comes the number 1 most incredible abandoned house in the world. This castle was built by John Lennox Kincaid Lennox in 1812. This castle was home to a supreme Scottish family. However, it was turned into an asylum for the mentally ill in the 1930s, and then a hospital during World War II, when the existing mentally ill patients were shifted to other buildings within their property. Disastrous fights were common among the patients. In one specific event, such a bad fight took place that staff, along with some uninvolved patients, ran away from the hospital. As the rioters were locked inside, they ended up crucially damaging the ward. By the 1980s, the hospital was vacated and then officially closed down in 2002. What a lovely sight this castle is, right? Well, how'd you enjoy this list of abandoned homes? We can't decide on a favorite. Tell us what you thought about these choices. And thank you all for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click on one of these 2 videos on your screen. See you there!